Hi, Chris Young here. There's an old joke. I was on TV once, but my mother made me get off because I was scratching the set. Okay, nobody gets that joke anymore because TVs don't have a top that you could get on top of. But they used to be on cabinets, and if you sat on top of the cabinet, you would scratch it. Well, here I am in some old videos that I captured off TV, where I was interviewed for a couple of different projects I was involved in. Also, there's a clip about the Central Indiana Radio Reading Service. I was on the board of directors of that organization. I'm not in the clip, but it's about an organization that I was involved with. The woman being interviewed was hired by a subcommittee that I was on. Finally, we have a couple of clips related to my mom. There's one about a news conference from the Muscular Dystrophy Foundation about a new guidebook for the disabled called Navigation Unlimited. Mom was instrumental in updating this guidebook, did about 95% of the work. She didn't get any credit in this online interview, but it was her project. Then there's another clip of my mom, who was being interviewed for the Council of Volunteers and Organizations for the Handicapped, or COVO. I hope you enjoy these old clips from 1984 or earlier. I don't have the exact date on the clips.
Indiana man fulfill his lifelong dream. Take a look.
It's not as evident to the casual observer that he's a very intelligent person. In my case, I have to make a special effort also to let people know that my handicap is completely physical.
That's Chris Young talking about himself and his buddy Chris Lee, who has had cerebral palsy since birth. Lee's not able to move nor speak so that most can understand him. And Chris Young has muscular dystrophy. The two Chris's have been friends for about 3 years now, ever since Young developed a computer program for Lee that enables him to write with the click of his tongue, causing computer characters to shift from one group of letters to another. In spite of his handicap, Lee has accomplished more things than some non-handicapped. At 28, he's a junior at IU Bloomington, is writing a space novel, has sold an article to the Brown County Gazette, and produces one puppet show a year. Chris's problem has always been that of depending on others, mainly his mother, to do his writing and editing, and has for years been searching for a better way to get through on paper. And so this is where Chris Young came into play with his VersaScan program that took about a year and a half to develop. Young, by the way, owns the Cyborg software computer firm and holds a BS degree from IUPUI.
I wrote a computer program that displays the letters of the alphabet and punctuation marks and other computer symbols on the top of the computer display. It scans the symbols in groups, and when the group containing the symbol that you want is being displayed, you make the click sound into the microphone, and it eliminates all of the symbols that are not being scanned.
Lee says the most difficult thing for him about learning how to use the scanner was trying to find where the letters were on the keyboard because they are not necessarily in logical order.
The other problem that Christopher has with the system is he has never learned to spell accurately. It was determined a long time ago that he would probably never have to write anything for himself, that he would always dictate his material, and so he just never bothered to learn to spell. And so Christopher is engaged in sort of a remedial program to increase his spelling skills. It made sense to me that it was a logical area for him to get into because of his disability. I also thought it made sense for me to be in the computer business because it's something that requires more brain power than it does muscle power or physical ability.
And just how do the two Chris's view the computer revolution?
There are people who look at the computer revolution and predict that someday people won't drive to work. They'll sit at home and do their work on a computer terminal. And some of these futurists look at this as a nightmare. To someone like Christopher and myself, who can more conveniently work at home, it's a dream come true.
You know, the first words that Chris Lee wrote on his computer went something like this. No man is an island, but I'm an island of silence. But since he's had this computer, he's added one more line, and it goes something like this. Now, I'm a part of the whole. Barbara Boyd for the News, Channel 6 in Nashville.
Tremendous. Fantastic. We'll be back in a moment.
They can teach your child the alphabet, or math, even talk to you. One of the largest displays of home computers ever assembled is now at the Indianapolis Convention Center. A local man has one of the most interesting exhibits there. Reporter Mark Baker spoke with Chris Young, who claims computers are not yet for everyone.
If all you're interested in is balancing your checkbook or keeping your recipes on file, I really am not so sure that you need that. If you want to get into computing for a hobby, it's just limitless possibilities there. But the real application is if you have a small business.
And business is what Chris Young of Indianapolis is in. Chris is handicapped. A worsening heart condition required that he quit his position as a computer operator in a private firm. He opened up Cyborg Software Systems, his own company. And one of his first programs was for a handicapped friend who couldn't use his hands. Chris's program makes the computer respond to audio cues instead of typed ones. The program is called VersaScan, and it recently won a national award.
The advantages are just limitless. You take a person who's confined to their home, who probably has communication difficulties, who is trying to find some way to express themselves, and the computer can be the tool that will just open up the entire world to them.
Young has also developed programs on real estate appraisal and preparation of forms. But one of his biggest sellers is the Cube Flattener program, modeled after the Rubik's Cube. Young has so far created 12 programs that he's selling, and look for many more from Chris Young and his computers. Mark Baker, the 10 o'clock news.
Purdue University
Computers, big homes and little homes, big businesses and little businesses, big kids and little kids. Everyone, it seems, is getting into the computer age, and so are we. Tonight on Night Beat, we'll talk more about it. We'll talk about some practical applications for you at home, coming up on Night Beat at 11. And certainly that seems to be true these days. Tonight on Night Beat, David Barris examines the practical home and business use of computers, and then we'll talk live with Jane Quant of Emprise Computer Services and Dale Taylor of Ditech Central. Later, you can now put a computer on your dining room table to keep the household records. You can use your phone to do your banking, and the toy stores are full of games for children from 5 to 85 that involve computers of some sort. This television station runs on several computers. One runs the commercial breaks without any human assistance except to load the tape machines. In fact, the way they put my name on the air at the bottom of the screen is done by computer. Today, David Barris visited the Indianapolis Business and Computer Show and has a report.
Nice shot.
Once, they were found only in very large corporations. Now they are a part of almost everyone's life, almost every day. They are computers, and they are doing things that once seemed like science fiction.
Please check paper supply. Ready to copy.
Computers are, of course, fun and games, but they are also serious business. In the past few years, the numbers of people using computers has grown. They can be found not only in the home, but in business and in industry. The computer industry has exploded in the last few years, thanks mainly to the decreasing size and cost of computers.
The prices are being driven down because there's more people getting into it. There's more
what they call hardware, more units being built, and the more you can build, the cheaper than you can sell them for. As prices have come down, the number of things a computer can do has gone up. More and more people are buying because more and more people are finding ways in which a computer can help them.
For current certificate interest rates, call Merchants Bank's 267-RE.
Computers make it possible to dial a phone without dialing the number. They make it possible to have fun learning at home without constant supervision.
Security. Door. Open.
And there's even a voice-activated computer that can be used without touching the keyboard. While all of these developments have spawned new companies and created an ever-growing industry, there is a more human side to the computer.
Well, personally, it's allowed me to form my own business and to earn a living in the field of programming. It's a field that, of course, doesn't require physical ability, that it takes more brain power than muscle power, and so it's an ideal area for someone like myself to get into.
Computers have had an image problem in the past. People seem somehow afraid of the electronic wizardry that is often perceived to be destined to replace human beings. Are we all going to be replaced by computers someday?
Absolutely not. You know, it takes people to make the computers too, you know, but I don't think we're going to be replaced by them. Just some of the drone labor-intensive tasks will be taken over by a computer to simplify our life and to take the errors out of some of the mistakes in counting and tabulating, this sort of thing.
Yeah. Because a computer really cannot do anything without somebody telling it to. That is, what they blame on computer errors are not computer errors most of the time. They're operator errors.
People who program the computers.
Right, or input information into them.
The computer industry is only in its infancy, say those involved. What seems so advanced now will be someday in the not-too-distant future obsolete. That means for those companies involved in computers, the competition will continue to be fierce.
So we see a lot more Japanese and European manufacturers in the marketplace, and competition is healthy. I think competition is good for everybody. It forces us to make a better product too.
You think the Japanese will take over these industries as they have some others?
Not so. I think that they'll be a factor in the marketplace as they are now.
Whatever the future of the computer industry, one thing seems certain. Computers are here to stay. Where they will be found, what they will be doing, seems limited only by the imagination of the men and women who design them. After all, if they have trouble making those imagined designs come true, there's always a computer around that can help out. David Barris, Channel 8 News on the Scene, Indianapolis.
In this feature, we've got a feature about the Muscular Dystrophy Foundation that my mom and I are a part of, and about a guidebook, accessibility guidebook for the handicapped that Mom worked on pretty hard with the MD Foundation. You also get a chance to see Ward Beckham, who's the president of the foundation and wrote that one article in the MD News about me. He's the guy who I said was such a bad writer. So here goes.
Linda Lupierre reports.
We're in the 300 block of North Meridian Street outside the Chamber of Commerce building. There is a parking lot adjacent to this building. The entrance doors are 31 inches wide. There is a passenger elevator inside, and the restroom doors are 27 inches wide. You might be wondering why I'm telling you this, since you really don't care about that. But if you were handicapped and in a wheelchair, that's information that you would need to know. And it's the type of information that's being published in a new guide available in this city. The updated version of Navigation Unlimited in Indianapolis was unveiled today by the Muscular Dystrophy Foundation of Indiana. This is the third edition of the book, which tells the handicapped where the barriers are down. There are listings for 450 different locations, including commercial buildings, libraries, restaurants, shopping centers, and even laundries and dry cleaners. Mayor William Hudnut, who was surprised to learn that the water fountains in the city-county building are 42 inches high, did the honors.
And you can turn to any page in here and find out all kinds of interesting information about the parking, about the size of the entry, about the contour of the floors in these various different buildings, about restroom facilities, the height of water fountains, and all the rest of it.
Ward Beckham, president of the MD Foundation, explained how the first navigation guide, printed in 1965, came to be.
Nearly 20 years ago, two incredibly dedicated handicapped women, Mary Alice Wilson, then the director of the Muscular Dystrophy Foundation, and Helen Summers, a close personal friend of hers, decided that something needed to be done for the handicapped to present them an accessibility guide, to give them the opportunity to participate more fully in the community in which they live.
The guide has caused the creation of similar publications in many other states and foreign countries. It is a mobility and facility guide for any handicapped person, not just those in wheelchairs. The book is available from the Muscular Dystrophy Foundation. The goal is to move toward the day when there will no longer be a need for such a book and all buildings are accessible. But until that day comes, Navigation Unlimited will be a bestseller. Linda Lupier for the News, Channel 6.
In this report, there was some deregulation of special education for the handicapped by the Reagan administration. And so COVO, the Council of Volunteers and Organizations for the Handicapped, that Mom and I are involved in, held a press conference, and Mom had to do a live interview. So this is a really scary situation. Here goes.
Climate report on that now. Some local reaction from Channel 8's Ray Rice. Ray?
Thank you, Mike. There are a number of suggested changes, too many to list here, but if federal regulations are amended, it could have an effect on state programs across the country. The Federal Department of Education currently is holding hearings in various places around the country, including in Chicago. Those hearings will continue until the end of October. Tomorrow, Frank Ball will testify at one of those hearings in Chicago. Mr. Ball is chairman of an organization called the Council of Volunteers and Organizations for the Handicapped, COVO. Today in Indianapolis, at a news conference, he explained what those suggested changes might mean.
That the threat of the new regulations or the proposed regulations would erode parental involvement in the educational programs of handicapped children, would reduce the protections that are now there, due process, and would diminish other services that are important for handicapped people in our society to get the kind of education to help them succeed in life.
Frank Ball couldn't be with us. He left late this afternoon for Chicago, but Fran Young is with us. She is the secretary with COVO. Fran, thank you for being with us. Let me ask you first, how many handicapped people could be affected here in Indiana?
Ray, there are approximately 125,000 handicapped children now in Indiana in special education programs. Some of them are in full-time special education class, some just part-time. The total would be in the neighborhood of 125,000 children.
How long have the current regulations been in effect?
The federal regulations have been in effect since 1977. However, here in Indiana, we have had regulations in effect for about 9 years, since 1973.
Now, I know that you have a handicapped child who's now an adult. And I must ask you, what was it like before we had these regulations?
Before the regulations, things were not quite so nice as they are today. In fact, parents were known to shop around and, in fact, move from state to state just to find programs for their handicapped child.
Fran Young, Secretary of COVO, we thank you for being with us today. And again, those hearings on these proposed changes by the Department of Education will be underway through the end of October, and we'll be following that story for you. I'm Ray Rice, Channel 8 News, on Specialist.
This is a feature about the Central Indiana Radio Reading Service, that I'm on the board of directors of that organization. I'm not in this feature, but it's about some friends of mine and the organization that I work with. And Julie, the young lady on the right, was interviewed by my committee and hired as the station manager for the radio reading service. So you'll get to meet these people.
Thank you for joining us. First of all, how did the idea begin?
The idea began with an interested group of individuals who are concerned about providing additional services to the blind and print handicapped of Central Indiana.
What type of programs or services are going to be offered?
Initially, the program will be primarily reading the daily newspapers, so that these individuals have the opportunity to listen to the same thing that you and I might pick up and see in the morning or evening paper.
Well, Julie, where will the program be broadcast from?
We'll be broadcasting from WHAC studios on the Butler campus, since we are a subcarrier of the Butler channel, which is a closed circuit channel just to special FM receivers.
Is there going to be a certain time of the day that you will just be broadcasting?
Yes, we'll start out programming the Indianapolis Star from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Monday through Friday, and then we'll broadcast the Indianapolis News from 6 till 7:30 p.m.
Now, when you say that it's closed circuit, are the people who are going to be receiving the service, will they have to have special equipment?
Right. They will have to make an application to us to get a special FM receiver that is tuned specifically to our station. They can't tune in on their regular radio and pick us up. So.
Now, will they be charged, or is there a cost factor involved?
There's no charge for the service. If they'd like to give a donation, we're more than willing to take it, but it in no way inhibits whether they will get a receiver or not.
Without any charges, how is this service going to be funded?
The corporation is going to have to rely on gifts from foundations, corporations, and individuals.
And then are you going to be raising these with some corporate foundations here in the city? Or?
We would hope that we can interest some corporate foundations as well as local organizations in making substantial contributions.
How is the station going to be staffed?
Well, basically, I'm the only paid staff person, so we're hoping to get a lot of volunteers, because as we get more volunteers and more programming we'll be able to do, we'd like to add in not only just our Indianapolis newspapers, but add in the community newspapers around the area, then hopefully pick up some magazines, women's magazines, business journals, and so forth. And then, if all possible, even add some books, special interest type thing. Anything that can't be read by these people, we hope to broadcast to them.
Is this something that's unique to this area, or are there other stations similar to this elsewhere?
Yes, there are about 60 to 70 other radio reading services across the United States that broadcast, most of them broadcast about 60 hours a week, and we hope someday we'll be able to do that too.
Now, what other programs do you see in the future?
Like I said before, we hope to add in magazines and books, and also maybe some public service type programming, interview shows, special interest to the print handicap. That would be really nice if we could do that.
Okay, at this point, you are just beginning. You are in need of
We're in need of volunteers, also people that would like the service that are eligible. And to be eligible for the service, you are either print handicapped. That curtails either a visual impairment, a physical impairment, or a reading disability.
Now, if these people are calling in to become volunteers, what type of positions are available?
Okay, they can help us out by becoming readers, help us deliver receivers once we get that started, help with clerical work, fundraising, really share any talent they have with us. We'll be more than happy to utilize them.
How far of a range is the pickup signal?
I think it's about, 27 miles, Don? Do you know?
Somewhere, good reception would be within 27 miles, but in some cases maybe up as high as 50.
A lot of it just depends how hilly the area is and so forth, but they say 50% of the time you get 50% good reception within 27 miles.
All right. From here, those who are interested in either becoming a volunteer or receiving these services, who and where do they contact?
Okay, they can call me at the studio, and the number's 283-6352. Or also they can write me at Box 110 on the Butler campus.